Am I adulting good?
I just don't know what I'm doing. I can't breathe.
I feel so anxious.
This is what it's all about.
I just don't know what I'm doing. I can't breathe.
This is what life's all about. I just don't know what I'm doing. Oh, what's going on?
I don't understand.
Welcome to the Am I Adulting Good podcast, where we talk about all things self-help and the reality behind trying to adult to our best ability in this world. We're your hosts, Brianna, Kriss,
And I'm Caroline Savransky.
and we are both in community mental health, so we've seen some pretty interesting things.
Deciding to take on the journey of self-betterment is daunting and hard. Let's make the mistakes together and share what does and does not work. Because hey, are any of us doing anything right? And if we are, how would we even know?
We will cover a variety of topics like the old self-sabotage, toxic relationships, finding yourself after a breakup, or perfectionism. Special guests will be invited for most episodes to share their experiences and wisdom.
This podcast is aimed at anyone and everyone who needs a little bit of help getting their shit together and wants some company in doing so. We're in it for the laughs, but if we can learn something on the way, then that's good too.
Am I adulting good?
So welcome everybody to another episode of Am I Adulting Good? Today, Caroline and myself are blessed and very grateful to be here with Lisa Jeffs. And Lisa Jeffs is a life coach as well as a career coach in Toronto. So thank you very much for being here with us today.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. Excited to chat with you guys today.
So we like to start off every segment with the wonderful people that we interview, asking them, what does adulting mean to you?
Mm-hmm. This was a very interesting question, and I've been thinking of what adulting means to me, and it seems like, the older I get, the less I really know what being an adult is. like what we think it's supposed to be when we're growing up and we're children, and we look at the adults in our life and we think they have every answer to everything and they just know how the world is working. And then you start getting older and you realize, oh my God, I don't know what the heck is going on. Like, what is going on with myself? I don't know what's going on with other people. So for me, like, what does adulting mean? It kind of means, at least in my experience, the older I get, the more I can almost tune back in to my childlike mindset of curiosity and creativity and just that childlike joy. The happier I am as an adult, anytime I try to fit into this kind of like the societal box of what a adult is supposed to be, which is like responsible, and you got your money in check and you got your relationship in check and your house is in check, it feels very contractive. It's not fun. My body starts to feel the pains. I start getting back pain. As soon as I go into that, okay, what did I used to do when I was a child to have fun and be creative and, those moments of joy and just freedom when you're a child, the more things just start to flow in my adult life, if that makes sense.
Oh gosh, couldn't put it better, to be honest. 100%. I am coming to the similar conclusions in my life as well, where you start to, because as a child, you look up at people being adults and you're like, responsibility, and they're so strong in their power. They've got all these things to do to look after themselves and others. And then as an adult, you're like, I just want to be a child again. Like, that is good adulting right there, is play and joy.
The first thing that came to my mind was running around the beach naked, which is what I used to love to do as a little girl. And I am, I don't know how to say, ashamed and proud that I have done that as an adult.
I did that last weekend, actually.
Those are some of the best nights. I really need to get back to my childhood, just strip down and run around the beach naked. So the police aren't there.
But you bring up really compelling points there, specifically in line with growing older and understanding that this idea of the expectations we put on ourselves to be an adult, and how adulting is really actually crumbling those away and just making do with it, and working
Mm-hmm.
out what is important to you, who you are within that, and trying to be happy within it all.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like that crumbling. It's really the
Mm.
crumbling of all the expectations and the beliefs we had around what adulting was, and really understanding what it is to us.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for that. And so, for our main topic for today is actually going to be self sabotage, which I actually came across an article you wrote on it. Straight away read it and I was like, yes, Lisa knows what she's talking about. She's on to gold here. There's definitely been a lot of personal experience here. And it was a reason why I reached out, because from what I had read, you have such an incredible way of talking about it, understanding it, and giving light onto how to go about dealing with it, and being kind to yourself in the process. But
Mm-hmm.
before we get into that, would love to hear a little bit about yourself and your journey. And so you're in Toronto, you're now a life and career coach. And how did you get to that point? Where have you come from?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always known that I wanted to help people in some way. I've always been really good at understanding kind of the ins and outs of a person. And when I started my, I guess you could say, my career journey, it was within the school board, and I was counseling at-risk youth. And so that it ran its course, and it ran its course until I realized that the school board was not the place I wanted to be. It was, I'm an entrepreneur, so obviously I don't like to play by other people's rules. I decided to leave that confinement. That's what it felt like, a confinement. And when I started my coaching journey, it was really more aligned with health and fitness, because that's what I was into at the time. But then when I started working with people, it was really the same challenges that were coming up all the time. And I started to see a pattern of, it doesn't matter really like what the challenge is, whether it's relationships or it's your health or it's with career, it's the same kind of stuff that was happening. So as I started to realize that, I really kind of shifted into the life and career aspect, because really what my passion is now in life and career is those are kind of labels, but what I do is I really help to align entrepreneurs with their greatest life purpose. So they can continue and really align with how they're meant to help either people, society, or the greater good in some way. So that's what I'm doing now. And as it evolves, it's, I mean, I'll get into that later when we talk more about the self-sabotage, but yeah, there's nothing I'd rather be doing than what I'm doing now, because it's helping people release these patterns and behaviors and watching them step into who they really are at their core. There's nothing more satisfying than that to me.
It must be so nice to work with people who want to be there, who are receptive, and who have so much, I guess, to give and to grow within themselves. Caroline and I are both mental health recovery workers in the community as well. So we know what it's like to work with people with varying disabilities, varying capabilities. And it's an incredible job. It's amazing. It is so rewarding. But there is an area where when a person is in such a cyclical pattern of being well and then unwell and never quite attaining that recovery that they hope for, there's a part of me that, even your path that you've gone down, I've come to very similar conclusions and would love to go down that life coach pathway and really help people reach for the stars and get to where they want to be and see the beauty within themselves and their own capabilities.
Yes, it's very rewarding.
I'm sure that along the journey that you help people with, you've seen a bit of self-sabotage, right? That's probably a big hurdle that people have to, get over to achieve their goals. So what does self-sabotage mean to you? And what's been your journey with it, if you're happy to share?
Yeah. So self-sabotage is probably the biggest thing that people come to me for. In my opinion, really what self-sabotage, it's our getting in our own way. So we get in our own way from either moving forward, from reaching success, from finding the love of our life, whatever that is, because of either there's fear playing in the background. There's unworthiness going on. So we put these kind of like rocks in our way to stop us from attaining what, you know, we can say we want it. But if the subconscious, if the background is saying, but I'm really scared of that. And what if I get that and then I'm judged? And I'll tell you about a little about my story, because my story really with self-sabotage has been a lifetime of self-sabotage, showing up in different forms and fashions. But a very common way of self-sabotage is distracting ourselves from moving forward. Right? It's when I had to make a big step in my business, I had an opportunity to really step up and step out in the spotlight. And my inner critic came in and was saying stuff like, you're not ready. You know, who do you think you are? This is going to be complete failure. You're going to be judged. You're going to be laughed at, all that inner talk. I ended up marathoning Netflix, The Office, for about 2 weeks straight, like literally just every day on Netflix. In my mind, I'm like, I got to do some stuff. I have a lot of to-do lists to do. And I literally could not pull myself away from marathoning it because of that internal dialogue, which was really rooted in fear of the unknown, fear of moving forward, fear of stepping out into the spotlight. So my journey with self-sabotage, when I can think of like where, like, to the extreme cases where it's been abuse of drugs and alcohol and really being lost in that world, to healing a lot of those parts, but then going into, I guess you could say, what society views as almost normal or common, which is just distracting myself from things or getting on social media and scrolling. Suddenly, you know, I go on looking for something with business and then I'm on someone's cat video or some like dog thing. And I'm like, what am I doing? It's been like 2 hours.
When you put it that way, it's almost like we self-sabotage so much more than we even realize. I mean, if all it takes is ignoring the to-do list and going on Instagram and spending a bit too much time there, well, God damn it. Like, I'm just going like, oh my God, I self-sabotage almost every minute of every day. Oh my God, I'm having an existential crisis.
Gosh, my self-sabotage comes in the form of we'll have this big assignment or handing in my thesis or something to do. And 4 days before I have to hand it in, I go off to a festival. And, you know, it's a whole thing when people tied in with type A personalities and all the rest like that. But, you know, you work really hard. And I know a lot of mine comes down to, if I have an excuse as to not get full marks, then at least I have something to blame it on. It's not me. Yeah. It's because of these actions. And I know, obviously, I didn't do that well, or I did the best I could because I was doing this instead. And it's that fear of success. And why? Why do we fear success?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting one, the fear of success. I know for myself, part of my healing was healing the fear, what success meant to me or what I thought it meant to me. So what success I thought meant was I'm going to be exposed almost. I'm going to be open and vulnerable to other people, or I'm going to be taken advantage of if I reach a certain point. Another big one that was tied into the fear of success for me was that it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot more work, and which is going to be exhausting. And how am I ever going to keep up with all that stuff? So let me just keep myself in this position because this position I know I could handle, right? And that was just a story I was telling myself. It was just a story. Yes. When I started to really break down the story and realize, well, if I'm making more money and I'm serving more people, and well, I'm going to be able to actually afford more help, which is going to make it easier for me. So maybe that story wasn't really rooted in truth.
No, and a lot of the stories are backed up by our belief systems, which also aren't rooted in truths, you know, whether they're from trauma when we're younger, of people telling us we're not doing the best, we're not trying our hardest, or a lot of the expectations that we put onto ourselves from society, from the schooling systems, from our parents, or whatever it might be. And it's so hard to break out of that.
Mm-hmm. It is.
You were mentioning more subtle ways of self-sabotage and then more overt ways, drugs, alcohol, that really self-destructive behavior. And I have been there, right? And it's almost like society enables that. There's nothing wrong with saying, oh, come on, just forget about that assignment or forget about that. Let's go out for a drink. You're young, you only live once. How do you feel like, are there any examples you can give of how society enables or accepts self-sabotage?
Well, when you were saying that, I got the image of around food and body image and diet. And it's almost like we're supposed to fit into this box of how we're meant to look. But then as society, it's often exactly like food. Let's have a party, let's have chips and all these foods, and the overconsumption is very much appreciated. And if you go to a party and you say, oh, I'll just have some water, everyone's looking at you like you just said the most insulting thing ever. So it is very contradicting when, in one way in society, we look at, I'm just looking for in the entrepreneur world of, oh, if you're really driven and you're really focused on success and you're working really hard, or the whole hustle mentality is very much looked at as like the holy grail, which I don't believe it is, but it can be perceived like that. But then in the other aspect, it's like, well, here's your Netflix. It's time to watch this. Social media, it's just this dopamine hit that people can get just sucked into. And it's not only their, the self-sabotaging behaviors that come in, but there's the programming, that the how it works and how the brain actually gets addicted to these things. That it's very hard, I think, in today's world to move through that.
Would you link then self-sabotage with instant gratification, and I often find that, people do go towards food and eating behaviors, drinking behaviors, consumer behaviors when dealing with uncomfortable emotions, whether those emotions are linked in with, I'm trying to achieve this, I want to go through this, but it makes me uncomfortable to even think about that. I'm going to resort to something that instantly makes me feel better, or something that takes me away from that uncomfortable scenario and situation that's there. And I think, it's interesting, that link.
That's a big one. That's a big one for sure. I know I've experienced, anytime I would get overwhelmed, I would instantly go, oh, let me just get a snack, or let me just go grab.
Snack attack.
Right? Maybe let me just go see what's in the kitchen. And I started to really pay attention and realize it was as soon as the overwhelm hit, as soon as I felt that initial hit, it was my brain, where's the snack?
Yeah.
So with people trying to address their own self-sabotaging behaviors, I feel like asking, how do you know if you're self-sabotaging? But I feel like we kind of know when we're in that behavior. But how do you think it starts? Like you just said, that initial, like, I should go get a snack. How can we be more mindful? What do you think are the first thoughts and feelings that come into our mind that we might not be cognitively aware of before we then go and self-sabotage?
So, I mean, this is such an important one, and it's really, it's committing to the journey of self-development or self-improvement. And part of that journey, the biggest part of that journey, is becoming more self-aware. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing is starting to be more mindful, right? Really starting to pay attention to what's happening throughout your day. If you're finding that you're on your phone constantly, which I've definitely been there, like putting the phone down or putting it in another room and just focusing, bringing your attention back into the moment, right? Like to really start to understand what the brain is thinking before it goes for that trigger, it goes for that object to self-soothe. Because a lot of self-sabotage is our desire to self-soothe ourselves, but we're doing so in a way that's not actually serving us, right? So when I thought about my taking this big leap in my business and I was marathoning the office like obsessively, I was just trying to self-soothe myself, my nervous system, because every time I thought about stepping out and in the spotlight, instantly my nervous system was just like on fire. So when you can start to really just be mindful, like going for a walk and just focusing in on what you're seeing, focusing in on your senses, focusing in on, you know, what's in front of me right now, you're going to start to train your brain to become more aware and less distracted and less in the noise of everything. For me, it's like an unfolding of understanding and this deeper awareness of, oh, okay, so when this happens, this is the behavior that I go to. When this experience happens in my life and I feel almost like an anxious feeling, or I feel upset, or I feel sad, this is the behavior that I go for, right? And you're going to start linking your feelings to the behavior, right? And it's for people that are just starting in this journey, it's getting to a place where you can be more aware of the thoughts that you're thinking. And a lot of times that's just by setting the intention. I'm going to start being more aware.
I mean, in saying that as well, because it's one thing, this is often, I feel, a downfall of people when they try to adjust these things, is that they think that I'm going to know exactly what it is, I'm going to battle it, and, you know, it's going to be a very positive experience, I'm going to be doing something for myself. But if I'm correct, it's not an easy journey. It's not a simple thing to do. It's not a comfortable thing to do at first. The training of the brain, the sitting through that, oh, I want to go for a snack. No, wait, I'm not going to go for a snack. I know that that is just a distraction for myself. What am I actually feeling? Or I'm not going to go and watch that TV show. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to sit with this project or what I want to do. And it's almost like you have to battle yourself. You have to rewire yourself and face yourself. And do you have any tips behind how to help people through that next step of, okay, I've identified it. Now what do I do to deal with these emotions that are within me, or these feelings that I'm denying to just self-soothe?
You know, I think the biggest thing with self-sabotage is the judgment that comes with the self-sabotage. So a lot of people I speak to, when they're kind of aware of their self-sabotaging behaviors, have enormous judgment around it. And they really think that they're almost worse off than anyone else. And it's not true. Like everyone I've spoken to at that level, there's some sort of self-sabotaging going on. So the first step is releasing the judgment around it as best you can. And I like to say, release the judgment and get curious. Just get curious what's going on, right? Really seeing yourself as, okay, I'm this like complex being here, right? This, a human being is not a surface level thing. We're filled with emotions. We're filled with our brain is another one. We have the heart space here. We have like this whole history of life. Let me release the judgment when I'm start becoming aware of my self-sabotaging behaviors, and just get curious. What's going on here? What's this link to, right? And it's for me in my self-sabotaging journey, I can't tell you the weight that came off when I released the judgment and just bring in the curiosity. It really alleviated a lot of those deeper, heavy emotions that come with self-sabotage.
What brought you to that point? Was it a flip of a switch?
What brought me to that point? I think, you know, this is like, when I talk about this is years in the making. So this is not something that happened overnight. So if anyone's listening and they're kind of at the beginning journey, it took me years to get to the place where I could really release the judgment and be curious. But I think a big part of that was just almost the connection and understanding that it wasn't so much the behavior that was harming me. It was the judgment I had around the behavior. So to go back to my example of the marathoning the office, it wasn't so much that harmed my progress, because it was 2 weeks out of my life, but it was the self-judgment on, wow, I can't believe I did that. Like, why I just wasted so much time. And the self-critical voice inside me was just beating me up continually. That was the most, for me, the heaviest part. It wasn't actually the behavior. And when I started to understand that, I started to release the judgment when I would do something and just say, hey, what was up with that? Why did I do that again? What was going on? What did I need?
Yeah,
what else did I need?
That's it. We should be able to take a week off or 2 weeks off to just let our minds sometimes just numb out and sometimes be in tuned into something that may not specifically be there for self-development of what we define it as. But it's sometimes necessary as well for you to just have that break, to step back, to rejuvenate, even if it's done in ways that you personally don't think that you appreciate. But it's like, if you're going to engage in these behaviors, enjoy them. Don't beat yourself up about them. Enjoy them. Take from it what you will, because that's what your body and mind is craving.
Yeah, exactly. We need something that we're not getting, whether that's comfort, whether that's love, whether that's approval, validation, safety is a big one. So understand that you're doing these behaviors because you really need those core things. And it's okay to give them to yourself in a way that you're doing your best you can in that moment, right? It's serving the purpose it is.
And it has elements of acceptance commitment therapy, ACT, where you can observe your behavior or observe your thoughts in a non-judgmental way, because then we get caught in this cycle. You have like a negative thought or a self-sabotaging behavior, and then you judge yourself, and then you need to escape that judgment, so you do more self-sabotaging. And acceptance commitment is like observing that you're doing this without judgment, just saying, you know what, I've just noticed that I have just spent 3 hours watching Netflix. Not judging myself, just wondering, just curious, like you said, curiosity. I wonder why I'm doing that, and not getting into a spiral of further just keeping going into that cycle. And something I want to ask on behalf of all our listeners, right? You don't have to be perfect, right? I mean, you can sometimes self-sabotage, catch yourself doing it and going, oh, I just needed a little bit of soothing. I needed a little bit of comforting. I was a little bit overwhelmed, right? Like, it doesn't, you're allowed that you have to make room in your life for a little bit of self-sabotage, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I don't think it's ever going to fully go away, because as we go through our journey, we're constantly healing, and we're healing new layers, right? So self-sabotage is often a part of the growth experience. So really just, again, curiosity. Oh, that's interesting. I did that again. I haven't done that in months. What was going on? What did I need?
I love that. I love that so much. Just seeing it with that curious eye, without the judgment of just that pondering and wonderment of it. It's funny, we're here and we're talking. In front of me is my cat, and she's just sleeping, and she's very cute and very beautiful. I'm like, she sleeps 70% of the time. And there's none of this, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything with my life. I should be going out there trying to chase a mouse and bring something home for the family. That's just, it is such an innate human experience to have this drive to be something great, which is so good to have, but we have to keep that in check sometimes and be like, yes, strive for things, make the changes in the world that you want to see and want to be a part of, but be kind to yourself in the process. And I think that pressure we put onto ourselves is just, it's so unnecessary, and I just don't know why it's there. I don't know why we haven't been brought up in a society to cultivate a loving, nurturing space, rather than trying to berate us into working till our knuckles are raw and bleeding, and we're hating ourselves, and we're acting out because we don't know what our true needs are in any one moment.
The irony is that's totally you, Brianna.
Yeah.
You work yourself into a hole. I'm a little bit more easygoing on myself. I'm like, I need a nap. Brianna's more just like, I only slept 2 hours last night. Let's go. I'm hearing a lot of her listening to what you're saying, Lisa, and really resonating with it. And I would really hoping Brianna gets this message from Lisa.
It is. It's nice to hear, because you know it, and this is it. You know it, you hear it, and it's just the biggest struggle I find myself is knowing those tools. And it's enough to know them when you're calm and collected and relaxed. But in that moment, in that fight or flight moment, when you're in a frenzy, when you've just booked yourself stupid and you're trying to help out a friend, when you've already got all these other commitments on, like I did this morning coming into this podcast, it's like when to say, I guess that, comes into the other topics we talk about of boundaries and, saying no and all those things. But taking that step back and just being curious, as you're saying, I think that's wonderful. But that's taken me to heart there a little bit, just to be curious.
Good. Yes, curiosity.
I'd like to see Brianna slow down. So I mean, if you've managed to get through to her, I will let you know if Brianna has started to self-sabotage in a more relaxed way. At the moment, her self-sabotage looks like functioning 23 hours a day.
What was it? During COVID, I've been in my last year of PhD thesis. I did 2 TAFE courses. I've taken up another university course from Michigan. I work 2 to 4 jobs at any one time and volunteer at a puppy shelter. I'm like,
just want to let everybody know that's bloody ridiculous and nobody should live up to those expectations. Lisa, I'm on your page. I just binge watch Netflix. So, who's to say what's better? Brianna's out there saving the world. We're doing our own thing.
Lisa's like, you need a balance there. It's not just about Netflix.
I love it.
Thanks so much for being on with us. And we've got into the Holy Trinity part of the interview. Brianna, this is your thing. So go on, introduce it.
So yes, our general Holy Trinity, which we'd like to ask you if you'd like to share with us one of your gratitudes, a brag, and a desire you have, either for today or for life, just something that is resonating with you right now.
So right now, in the past little while, I've been really tuning into the gratitude around my online business, with everything going on, and Toronto's shut down right now. And also gratitude for being connected to you and Cindy, and just having this wide open space that comes with having my business online. And I've really been tuning into the gratitude of that, because I know that's not the case for a lot of people. As a brag, I gotta this is something I'm actually really proud of, and it's funny because it was almost like a self-sabotaging behavior that I was in last year. Really kind of not ignoring my health, but not prioritizing it. Really prioritizing other things above my health. And December 2020, I really started to tune in and be like, okay, I got to get my health in check, because I'm starting to feel not so great. And so for the entire month of January and still at February, just really been taking healthy actions that I know align with my best, me feeling the best. Foods coming in, getting outside every day, walking, moving my body, really paying attention to my energy. And I'm feeling like from maybe a 60 now to like 110. So that's my brag.
Amazing.
My desire. So another thing I've been really paying attention to lately is tuning back into my feminine energy. So Brianna, maybe you can relate to this, when we're in that drive and that ambition and that like go, 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 which I've been in for probably 20 years. I almost kind of like forgot about my like real core of divine feminine flow and romance and all that stuff. So tonight after this, my desire, I'm going to have a bubble bath. I'm going to have some wine. I'm going to have some like soft music. And my desire is for it to be as fabulous as it sounds.
Gosh, it's wonderful. It's funny that you mentioned that, though. I've just started with a few of my friends a philosophy club. And when I was young, I loved philosophy, loved that wonder, loved that, mental challenge of thinking outside of the here and now. And to be honest, we've just started reading this book called Sophie's World. And it is beautiful. It is phenomenal. It is. And it's brought back that love. It's brought back that wonderment of almost mind's play of just slowing down and thinking about the beauty, about the little things of life and creation and the magic that is here with
Yes.
us always.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. So it's funny, like I go get yourself that book at both of you. It is just, it's an easy way of reading philosophy without it being like having to search up every second and third word because nobody understands what they're talking about. But even just hear you saying just that getting back to that play, that fun, that wonderment, that love.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so important.
If it wasn't the middle of summer for us, I would be diving into a bubble bath right now myself. I don't want to keep you from that. That just sounds amazing. And it's Friday afternoon for you. You've had a busy week. Where can people reach you?
Yeah, so if I would love for people to reach me on my Instagram. That's the platform that I'm most active on currently. My handle is at Lisa_Jeffs. It's Jeffs like 2 F's and 1 S. Or you can always head on over to my website, which is www.lisajeffs.com.
We'll have that in the show notes as well.
Fabulous.
And we'll have a link to the self-sabotage article. So
I will add in that article. I have a few articles of self-sabotage, but those are the most visited on my site by 200. By like 200. So it just shows how prevalent it is for humanity, like across the board.
Yeah, I mean, like even here, we've discussed so much today, and I'm like, oh, but I really wanted to ask about this and that and this and that, and it's an endless topic. And so, yeah, thank you so much for coming on board and talking with us today and sharing some of your wise wisdom and experience.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely.
It has.
Thanks, Lisa. Enjoy your
Thank
lovely bubble bath.
I will.
All right. Wow. Isn't Lisa Jeffs just amazing when it comes to knowing about self-sabotage and just what gets us into that space and what we can do to not just recognize it, but address it?
Yeah, she was amazing. Loved having her on. You got her details of where you can follow her to get more details. We'll also put up a link to the self-sabotage article of how we found her in the first place.
Yeah, and there you'll find a few more little notes and tricks and different things. It's all great quality stuff there, which is good.
Thanks so much for being on with us, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks for listening to the Am I Adulting Good podcast. We hope you guys are getting out of it as much as we are and are learning a trick or two about how to adult. Please give us a review and a 5-star rating, like our podcast, and follow our channel on whichever streaming app you're using. It really helps us reach more people and build our community.
Hit us up on Instagram at Am I Adulting Good? Also, remember to send us your holy trinity and share your stories with us at amiadultinggood@gmail.com. Each week, we'll share one of our adulters' emails, and that could be you. Seriously, we love hearing from you. Keep doing your thing, adulters. We love you. We love you. We love you.
Am I adulting good?